Any changes to the agenda?
The only one is 10.1, and it's on there listed. And that's just so that we get that night shift supervisor one advertised. So if we're gonna move ahead with this plan of the reorganizing, we gotta get that position going with it.
Okay. Alright, we make a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Lindsay, is there a second?
I'll second.
By Amy. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public comments? Nope. All right, thank you for everyone who's here this evening.
Can I keep that for a second?
Sure. All right, we will move on to reports, and we'll go with the Activities Director report first.
It's a good one. All right, well, first of all, congratulations to all of our winter activities. It depends on how you look at the success, but as far as Rebel recognition, we had 2 wrestlers qualify for state, Jacob Ahrens and Jack Fox. Jacob's currently actually at we're hosting a subsection speech meet right now, so he's currently busy representing us there. So we'll try to get them in next time. And same with the boys basketball and with the girls basketball. A couple highlights, we did have a section coach of the year. Tom Critchley was named coach of the year. And we'll try to bring in his 3 seniors who are also academic all-state. So that was pretty good. If you were at the awards banquet, they kind of went through as far as the all-conference and things like that. Aiden Leach was our sole representative on the boys' side, and then the girls had a number. As far as dance goes, I know we had them, at a previous meeting, but they're knocking on the door as far as where they were 4 years ago, and it's very obvious. And biased, we have a board chair that might be a little bit biased, but she's right when they were pretty impressive at Wadena and thought that they should have qualified. Wrestlers, if you talk to them, they're 2 years away from taking the team to state, so we'll see. Our move up to 2A this year was the first year doing that, but I think it's gonna be okay. They've got the numbers are coming back for that, so they're pretty excited, and I think the outlook is pretty bright. Looking at the numbers inside, I went and I took the participation with activities as far as our high school. Right now, just winter alone, we're at 46%, 47%. That's unduplicated. So anything that is kind of under my umbrella, I look to see, all right, how many kids do we have out? Look at that way. Middle school, doing the same thing, we're at about 72%. If you want to look at it, every year I do a state report to the Department of Ed, and I always do unduplicated numbers. We're hovering around that 90-some%. Well, if I took the 46% and I just added, let's say, football in there, the extra 40 kids that would make up that, right now I'm pushing at about 60%. So with the baseball and vice versa with, the volleyball numbers and the track numbers, those aren't included. That's how we get right around that 90-some% when it looks at our students at least getting involved in something. So it's pretty good, but I just wanted to kind of focus on the winter numbers. Middle school, pretty strong. I used 240 enrollment for 7th and 8th, and then I used 397, I think, 9 through 12 enrollment. So that was pretty good. The other section, just a couple things, what's on my radar. The first one is the NCAA. I don't know if they don't like me very much, but we're gonna go back and forth with the clearinghouse. So anytime we change a class or even change a name, it's pulling teeth. So what the NC Clearinghouse does is make sure that any athletes that are going to go on to the next level, Division II, Division I, they have to have the right amount of core, the right amount of GPA, the ACT, all that kind of stuff. So, it's not a common occurrence every year, but we'll take, for example, Natalie going to MSUM. Well, we have to make sure that we have everything kind of aligned. And she's going to be fine, but we're trying to set it up for the future where all these things, we're offering college classes right in school and all this. Well, if you have it named a little bit different, they will flag it. They will And so you resubmit it, you resubmit the paperwork, you resubmit the flow chart that goes with it as far as here's what we're doing. Well, we didn't like it because it said group, and we're not gonna do anything with group. So then you resubmit it, then they click the button that says you have been ignored. So now they're ignoring me. But we got 1 out of the 2 recent ones, so that's one thing that anytime we meet with, you know, department levels and things, we've got to be careful, and we've got to remind them, all right, what are you going to name this? Because it's amazing how if I name it college speech, check mark, we're good to go. But you name it anything else, all right, we're going to call this this and that. Well, now we just totally kind of handcuffed ourselves as far as getting these approved classes through the NCAA. But like I said, it's not very common, but it's also not fair for, you know, those special student athletes that have the grades or whatever. It's just extra hoops that we have to jump through, but we're getting it figured out, and it's on the radar, and then working with our counselors and stuff. So, and we've got a pretty good relationship with the liaison from MSUM helping us out, doing waivers if we need it, but anyway. The second one I wanted to bring up in front of you so the boss wouldn't yell at me. This is every year we have recertification of our helmets. And every year something goes wrong. So what happens is we have Rydell comes in and they look at our football equipment. And in the past, we haven't had, well, let's just say right now we've got a better system set up where we make sure that one of our coaches is with them, because they can take any helmets that we have off the shelf. They can say, nope, it needs to be recertified. Well, if we don't take a look at it, they can charge us whatever they want. All right, we just redid 50 helmets, you owe us, you know, $7,000, whatever it is. Well, now we're, all right, why this and that? Any helmet that's 10 years or older is automatically trash. You can't get it recertified. The biggest thing is to watch out for, you don't want them to take a bunch of 2009 helmets and recertify them. You don't even want them to take a bunch of 2010 helmets and dump all this money into it, because in 2 years they're going to be trash anyway. So if there's a question mark, don't even waste the money, because we're better off buying a $100 helmet, $200 helmet, saving the money, and just kind of re-upping. Soderbergh has a pretty good, pretty good system in place, a rotation. So he only has to kind of re-up on his helmet order, you know, 10, 15 at the most every year, which his equipment alone just kind of chews up the majority of his budget right away. The thing that caught my eye on the latest report, though, is I had a 2012, a 2013, and a 2014 were all kind of junked. Well, I look at the manufacturer, that's Zenith. All right, what's wrong with those helmets? Why are we going to keep buying them? You know, the Rydell helmets and then the Schutt helmets are seem to last a little bit. So of the 16 helmets that we were rejected, I flagged these 3. So I'll contact the vendor, ask them why they were, because those are fairly new helmets. Why did you know, and maybe they were cracked, maybe the kids that had them were, you know, heavy hitters, whatever, but, you know, we don't know that. But the system we have in place is a little bit better, a little bit more accountability, and a little bit of the why is this, why is that, and then eliminating a lot of those expenses as far as don't recertify our helmets that we're going to junk a year later, because it's just a waste of our money when we can get new. So that one came, and I thought I would do it now, so I didn't
Good
get
job.
yelled at in front of the public.
Good job.
No, but it's a better system now. Number 3, schedules. 18-19 schedules other than next year's track, baseball, softball, golf are pretty much ready to go, other than wrestling, I think, has a few things that we're going to have to finagle with, but those seem to be pretty good. We're flipping the schedule with football that we had last year, and then they'll do the reclassification, and then we'll kind of see. But we're going to stay with that same group. It just might be a different order of events as far as how we play it. And then the last one is the big one. So we have preliminary numbers coming out for middle school baseball. 8th grade has right around that 12, 13 students. That's fine. 7th grade has about 21 to 22 kids. All right, well, we could have a big team. You know, you play 9. Kids can maybe get, 4 innings in a doubleheader. Okay, but it's a decent group. It's a vocal group. Coaches are scarce, and teams to play are even more rare. So the teams that we play in the Heart of Lakes Conference, a lot of them, at best, will have one 7th, 8th grade team. If we try to play the DLs, we'll try to play the perms who can guarantee us a 7th grade team and an 8th grade team. Well, we have the luxury of having potentially 2 7th grade teams, and right now we have 0 coaches. So I've got 1 on the line. I should hear back this week, so I think I've got 1, and I think I can sweet talk another one where I could get us 2 coaches, if that would be allowed, so we can have, right around that 11 and 11 on each team. As far as games go, we have to be creative. I've already talked with our head coach, Ibach. Well, we can always go to Fargo, we can always go to Moorhead. We can, but Fargo and Moorhead, their middle schools don't run their baseball program. They're all outside agencies, they don't touch it. So, raises another flag of, all right, who do we know, who do we have on these teams? The nice thing is we've got, our coaches are pretty good at, we can reach out. So I think the last conversation I had with Ibach, our head varsity coach last week, was if you get me 2 teams and 2 coaches, I can guarantee you the games. And that's great, but then we still run into, all right, we've got snow, we've got 6 teams, and we've got 2 baseball fields. So it's not going to be easy. Busing, whenever, we play on the same day that we have a track meet, well, track takes 2 of our buses automatically. And then either baseball or softball will have the other one. So that's when you really have to kind of go smooth talk Eileen, and she can always seems to work her magic and make it work. But yeah, some of the things that were obstacles that we're dealing with, and it's baseball's the big one. So it's going to be however you want me to play it, because I think I can get 2 coaches. I think I could get us some games if weather cooperates, but it'll be tricky. But at least they'll, if we keep it as is, there's a good chance that with any sort of weather delays or whatever, and varsity taking the, kind of pulling the trump card on the field usage, it's, they might just have a handful of innings. So, and right now the interest is there, and I think we've got some good groups coming up. So, and then advisory council meeting on Thursday. We're gonna do that one, some topics. So that's what I've got.
Joe, at what point do you, as far as if the board was, are you looking at April 9th, then having things in place to bring something forward to the board if it was going to be another coach and more games scheduled and all of that?
Yeah, I think the sooner the better. Right now, the middle school, the 7th and 8th grade is scheduled to start April 3rd. And right now we've got, the varsity JV programs. Those coaches are pretty awesome, because the reality is we're not going to be out on Balmershall Field. So they already do invite 8th grade in. They would extend the invitation to 7th grade just so they can start getting ready, and then those coaches would work with our younger kids too if we didn't have anything in place. By next week, I think I could have 2 coaches in place. If that were something, then I could bring them forward on the 9th for approval, or meet with you and see if, yeah.
Well, that way, as soon as we get numbers, once you get the practices going,
Yeah.
then at least we can put that
And these
out
are
into the.
prelim numbers, like I said. Now, if 5 or 6 of them dropped out, well, then we're okay. But if you get 1 or 2 more or whatever that wanna try it.
And would any of the kids be moved up, or would they be sticking at the 7th grade? How much will that? So
and it's always an option. We could bump a couple up, but now you're looking at, all right, you've overloaded, a little bit on the 8th grade, and if we did 2 teams, I think 8th and then both 7th would be right around that 12-13 each, which would be plenty of innings, plenty of
It's gonna make a difference though if you go up front saying there's gonna be 2 teams. If everybody knows there's 22 players and it's gonna be 1 team, you're gonna lose 5. They're just gonna drop like that. But if you go in saying, no, we're gonna have 2 teams, you may add to 22.
Yep.
Because they know they're gonna get a chance to play.
And this isn't one where we do A, we do B. I think you need 2 teams. You need some arms on both of them. It's just, let's play, let's get that,
First year at 90-foot bases, you know all the pitching you can get.
Yep, get your at-bats, and so that's what we'll be looking at. And I will keep you in the loop once we once I have a clear, yes, I'm interested, I'll do it, and things like that, and then we'll move forward, so.
Do you roughly know what's your cost on like an extra coach?
Probably about 1,900.
Okay. And probably not another bus if you'd have two teams.
No, they
You'd be able to
would.
fit both
Yep.
7th grade team and an 8th
And
grade
we
team
would
on
look
the
at the
same bus.
schedule, because if we played, Pelican has one 7th and 8th grade team, well, maybe we send one 7th grade team for a doubleheader, maybe we send them both, you play the first, you play the second, things like that. So at least they're getting options that way, but I think what we would do is get creative and try to get them, if not on the same day, but we would just supplement the games with probably our Fargo, West Fargo, and Moorhead groups.
They'll be doing well if they get 4 innings in.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, any questions for Mr. O'Keefe? All right, thank you.
Thanks,
Joe.
Moving on to 6.2, Community Ed Report. And the steak fry was great, the
Yeah.
steak was
We had a
tasty.
good time, we had a good time, we'll hit on that when I get down there, but we had a lot of door prizes, we had a lot of guests, and food was good, so that was a good turnout. We'll just highlight a little bit here of our fall and winter programming. You'll see our list here of several of the activities and classes and programs that we've had. The first one for us, like I shared the last time we presented, the FMYBL League that we have 21 teams that participate in that, and that really keeps a lot of the kids involved between the boys and the girls program. A lot of those teams went from October all the way till the end of February participating. They would play season 1 that went October, November, December, and then season 2, if they decided to continue on, they would play the travel and do 5 tournaments, or they would play in the West Fargo League. So we had many girls and many boys in the gyms 7 days a week. So they usually got 2 practices and their game day. First Lego League, another event that activity we had going on, that wrapped up in January with the 5th through 8th grade students participated over at Carl Ben and Fargo for a competition. They both did very well, the teams that went over there, and in conversation with the coaches, and they have actually asked, how can we get more of the robotics into the high school level? So I know there will be more conversations at the middle school level and at the high school level, because we've had others reach out to us saying, how can we make it happen? So more of that information, Community Ed will have conversations with Heidi and her team and see how we can make that happen, because last year it was 4th and 5th grade, this year it's 5th through 8th grade, so going well. The K through 2 basketball programs for boys and girls went really well. We had the daddy-daughter holiday ball with about 172 couples that came out for that. Dave and Tricia helped with that. We had a lot of hands on deck for that event. Spanish club is still continuing in the high school. ACT prep class has happened a couple times this year. It's going on right now as the students prepare for the ACT test on April 3rd. Snowmobile safety and firearm safety have taken place. Firearm safety is finishing up here in Dilworth and Glyndon. We offer it at both sites, and there we have about 68 kids participating between the 2 sites, so lots of activity. Several art classes that we have going on, some STEM classes you'll see. We did open up the walking in the school in the morning and the evening when we have school open. Adults are taking advantage of that, along with open gym that happens on Wednesday nights. We did have conversation about possibly adding an adult open gym at the Glyndon site, because some of the adults are wanting that, so we'll bring that back to the advisory council on the 16th to see if we can offer that at both sites when we have some open evening. Usually it's a Wednesday night is when we try to target that. 4-on-4 volleyball league was new this year as well, and that went really well for the 5th and 6th and 7th graders. Summer rec we're busy planning for that. We're having that brochure come out April 10th. Doing some fine tuning on that. We went through it with the advisory council, all of the activities that we had last year. And we will be adding some more before that goes out April 10th. We will again put out our employment application. We did that again last year, and that is when people who are looking for a job can apply online, and then we'll go through, do a lot of probably rehiring of our staff from last year, and any openings that we have, we will take those applications through the online system and then fill those remaining spots with those applications. The bike fleet, we finally did get our license plate for the bike trailer. It's taken several months to get because of the state backlog on licensing and titles and things. So we just got that a couple weeks ago, but we have had conversation with Patrick Hollister, who helped us with the bike fleet, and he has some ideas on what we can do to design and utilize the trailer for besides the bike. So he has some ideas on what we can do, so we're gonna be meeting in the next week on that. The bike fleet, we will be having an after-school bike club. More will come out on that in the summer rec brochure. We'll be promoting the bike to school day that's coming up this spring, so that we can get the kids excited about the bike fleet. One thing that we do when we start the summer is, we started this a couple of years ago, we have a Safe on Your Own class. And that includes eating healthy. It's a 2-hour class that we start out the first day of summer. It's a free class, and they will spend a little bit learning about bike safety. They will learn a little bit about eating healthy. They'll learn about what it's like to be on your own at home. And this year, we're going to add conversation about sun safety. We're gonna kick off a sun safety campaign the month of April, and we're partnering with Essentia Health and Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo schools, and we're going to try to enlighten the students on the importance of sunblock and being out in the sun. So we're gonna add that sun safety component to our Safe on Your Own class. So it'll be twofold. We'll do a sun safety campaign, and we'll include that in the first day of summer, Safe on Your Own class. So kids get well-versed on a lot of those things. Advisory Council meets again on the 16th of April. We'll have more conversations on summer rec planning, those last minute things that we need to work on since the brochure has come out. Is there anything we need to tweak? We met second week of March and had some conversations on our summer rec brochure, and we are also now going to be, I was visiting with Brian a little bit, we're gonna be audioing all of our community ed advisory council meetings so that they are available for our minutes and things like that, so that we can go back and reference those should we need to. Okay. Community Ed Steak Fry took place this last Friday. We had a lot of volunteers that came out and helped. A lot of silent auction items. We did a lot on the meat raffle. Nikki Wardeen really worked hard on getting a lot of businesses to donate meat. So we had Gourmet Processing from Dilworth, Quality Meats, and Meats by John and Wayne in Fargo, that they donated some if we bought some. So we had everything from bacon to steaks to fish to anything in between. So it went really well, and she worked really, really hard on the silent auction meat raffle. Driver's Ed, a little bit on that. We have been active with numbers. They've really are growing with the classroom size. We try to target about 30 students in a class. Sometimes we're getting about 35, 37. With our student population continuing to rise for each grade, we're gonna probably have to review, do we need to offer more classroom sessions? Currently offer 4 right now, fall, winter, spring, and summer. But those are going really well. Craig is instructing those. We just offered a point of impact class on March 19th, a Monday night. and we had about 80 people registered, and we probably had about 74 show up. And that is a 90-minute class that students take with their parents. It's the only way you can get the certificate of completion is if a parent attends, and we strongly encourage the student to attend with the parent. 90 minutes overview of, you know, how to learn good habits when driving, things like that, and reminding parents to have, you know, model that behavior so that sometimes you get in a habit where you're going a little too fast or you roll through a stop sign. The kids are mindful to watch that. So Jeff Lee assisted with Nicole Reno, Craig Anderson was there, and they did a great job. We do it once a year, and it was, you know, a good turnout. So we were pleased to see all of the people there. Concessions, we're pretty much winding down on that. The last one we had was this weekend. JO tournament had a volleyball tournament both weekends, and as you know, we do a lot of the event setup for them with the concessions so that people aren't bringing in baked goods, they aren't bringing in crock pots, they aren't bringing in their own pop. So we literally will stock the entire concessions for them. We'll work with Subway, we'll work with the pizza vendor. So really they just show up and the food is there and they sell. And then we end up invoicing them for the cost of the product. So it works really well. But it's just, I think it, for most of, I mean, I would say we haven't heard one person say, this is, oh, what a pain. They love it because they don't have to haul everything. But overall, I would say the year has gone well. You know, each year, the junior class parents are usually the ones that staff the concessions. The charge with the junior class parents this year was they wanted the students to take an active role behind the counter, working, because that post-prom event is for them. You know, you might have saw a lot of kids there this year. We'll have, you know, more conversation when we meet again on April 3rd, and then we'll meet again right before post-prom and again after, as kind of what worked, what didn't, and so forth. This last year, one of the things that we implemented was, you know, we look at all of the equipment. What do we need to buy? We don't want to come back to the school district and the school board and say, we need this equipment. So we're trying to, we create a budget at the beginning of the year. We will define at the end of the year really what are those things that we want to purchase equipment-wise. I know we'll probably have to get a few things out at the visitor side. And the dollars that we have in the concessions community ed fund, we will try to target some of those and work with Cindy and Brian on those. Each night, our processes have been this way for a year. When we start the night, we bring down our money box. Someone is working the money box. When the night is over, no matter who's working the money box, they bring it in, they'll put it in the concessions, 2 people count it. When the night is over, Nikki counts it, I count it, or Ryan will bring it down. A community ed member will pick up the box, no matter if it's me, Nikki, or Ryan. It goes down to the safe, it's recounted again, and then it's gone over to Cindy and counted again. So it's counted 4 times by 3 different groups of people. So, you know, I think we have a lot of checks and balances in our community ed processes. So we wanted to highlight how the year has gone, equipment, we might be needing a couple things, but we'll bring those forward. The committee will bring in some recommendations on the post-prom, and they'll bring it to the advisory council, because we do have a couple members on our advisory council who sit on post-prom. Post-prom, you'll see in the board agenda that you're approving the rules tonight. The only thing that's been modified at the request of the post-prom committee is, look, I think it's under the prizes section, bullet 2. The one thing that the parents discussed was the early bird prizes, the game prizes. What are the game participant drawings? Last year, we really wanted the kids to stay engaged the whole night. So the more games they played, the more tickets they got. So we identified 4 prizes, and they would play games, and they'd keep putting tickets in, and they'd put them in all at the end or whatever. So they got those, they had a choice of getting those 4 prizes. They could put their tickets in whatever one they wanted, okay? Same thing at the end of the event, and the grand prize winners, we don't want those prizes, the recommendation of the committee was to go to people that are not DGF. So last year, some of the prizes that went to students were non-DGF students. And so the recommendation and the modification to the rules this year was early bird prizes, the game participant drawings, and any prizes at the end of the night, right after the hypnotist, are DGF students, juniors and seniors. When the students do walk in, there's a group of parents, they have 4 people that are assigned at the door. They will check them in, and then they'll move over to a table and they'll have all the gift bags. Then there's a group of parents who does the shirts and puts the gift cards in all of those bags. And then they will hand them all out. The only prizes that a non-DGF student would get or an underclassman would get would be the shirt and the gift card that's in their bag. So any other prizes that would be given away at prom would be for juniors and seniors of DGF students or DGF homeschooled students. So it's kind of just keeping a lot of that, the prizes in-house, even though they're getting the entry ones. So. So I think that's the overall changes on the post-prom rules, and I think that was.
Right, and I was on that post-prom committee last year, and that was our recommendation to bring that forward, so.
Yeah. Any questions on anything I can review?
The only question I have is what time the advisory council meeting is, and it's in Glendon, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
I think this next one, Amy, we wanted to rotate, is gonna be in Dilworth.
Okay.
Yep.
What
So,
time will that
I think it's April 16th, and they usually start at 7.
Okay, thank
So.
you.
We had
Alright.
to, the other one was because we had section playoffs, we had to move it to 6, so.
Anybody have any questions? No? All right, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy.
All right, looking at board committee reports, Lindsay or Scott, you wanna? touch on?
I'll do policy. We had a policy meeting on Thursday night. So you guys are gonna see in your packet, we have our second reading of 414. Just to refresh you guys' memory, that's that mandated reporting. Brian and Sandy had it sent down to our lawyers to review. They came back and everything should be good to go on that. So that's our second reading on that. First reading is gonna be happening tonight on policies 901, 905, 906, and 907. We did table 902 and 905.5. Do you have the
Yep.
same notes?
Except
Okay.
in 904 we also have tonight.
Okay, 904. Okay. All right, sounds good.
That's the only other
We had a
one.
lot of 900s. Anyway, the reason why is Tracy and her advisory council will be going over 902 and 90 and all the addendums that go with that. I think
It's a big
there's
one.
like 6 or 7 addendums. And then 905.5 will also be reviewed by the advisory council. They'll come back with their recommendations if they have any changes to those policies. And then that would be our first reading on those. So second reading on 414, first reading on 901, 905, 906, and 907. I do want to point out on 907, this is a new policy to our district. This is on rewards. And it's an MSBA policy, and we had a good discussion about it. If we have this in place, like we had the vandalism this summer, we didn't have a policy in place to offer a reward. It's not saying that we have to use that reward, that policy, but it's in place if we so choose to have an incident like we had this summer, that we would have a policy that we would agree to offer reward possibly. So that is a new one to our school district, 907.
All right, Scott, do you wanna touch on that?
Yeah, I'll be quick on this one. We talked quite a bit about the budget. I think the district has a PD day here Thursday, so they'll kind of look at some hopefully creative ways to wear in the red pretty good and quite a ways in the red. But so they're gonna kind of, as a district, look at maybe some different ways where we can kind of adjust that, and they'll bring that information back to us on the 9th on our work session. So we didn't talk really about any solutions or anything, just kind of updated, look at, you know, where the money's spent and where the deficits are, so it's pretty.
That's great. Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you. All right, we will move on to 6.4, the superintendent report.
We have a long one.
Oh, come on.
No, it
Kick
won't
it
be
in
long.
gear.
No,
Okay.
just a few things.
It's
Really
all the
won't be
stuff
long.
It's all the stuff we heard at 5.
Yeah, well, there's a few things. So we have the staff development day on Thursday. And as we talked earlier, some of the things, and we'll have all the staff starting out in the theater. We've got a few topics that we're going to hit on that. Some of it will involve the restructuring on how we're doing the operations into the maintenance and the custodial. We've talked about that for a good month plus now. So that should be ready. You've all received the job descriptions on that. So we're gonna walk through that. We're gonna talk budget, and we're going to talk some specifics, especially now that we're going to be hitting into the budget and looking for some feedback and basically so that we have a process in place that all staff have a chance to share their ideas on, maybe at both between what can be done at their site level and suggestions district-wide. And then the process will include each of the site leadership teams then taking those ideas, having discussions at their site leadership teams before the 9th. And then that way the board will have all that information on the 9th. And then after the 9th, between the 9th and the 23rd, then we've got a district leadership team meeting. So they'll go through the same, and then they'll prioritize, and then we'll bring all that back together on the 23rd for the board action. So making sure that we've got processes that we can get feedback at all those different levels and validate the importance of not just input from everybody, but also the functions of those leadership processes. So it's going to be, we definitely have some ideas, but laying ideas out until we even have a chance of people being able to brainstorm doesn't make sense. So we're gonna walk through that. I have a meeting scheduled next Wednesday over at the city of Dilworth, just giving them an update on some things, some what ifs, to see if we can even go down this road on, in particular with the building in Dilworth, some possibilities when we talk about entrances and what we may be able to do. And then that'll be a joint operations committee with the city of Dilworth and then DGF School District Operations. So they're going to get a little bit of the information about that and see if some of these things even make sense to be able to investigate. And by that time that we would be then putting that joint meeting together, we should have the CM also in place, so it'd be a perfect time to have them involved in the process, answering questions. So we have that coming up. So once we get a date, I'll be in contact with the operations committee members to see if we can come up with a date that works for both the city of Dilworth and our operations committee. One of the policies that we do not have, and again, this is not an MSBA policy. MSBA does not have a model policy on homeless students. But many districts, it's becoming more of a standard of school districts to create a policy on homeless. And we know it's an issue here. And we have, it's a burden. It's a burden for everybody. It's a widespread problem. It's becoming a bigger problem. So the goal we've met administratively. I've been getting sample policies from other school districts. We have Moorheads. We have a number of them from other schools in the Twin Cities, and And a lot of it is based on what's in the federal legislation, which dictates all of this. But you do have some parameters that you're able to do at a local level associated with homeless. And it puts a lot of burden on one person if you just if it's all based on a homeless coordinator without it being a process. You think of what we go through with IEPs, and we have team meetings. And in the past, when we've had very much incidental and not widespread homeless issues, maybe it's just been the coordinator, and here's the interpretation. Well, we're seeing it at all of our buildings now, and it affects transportation. I've had conversations with Moorhead. I mean, you have some of these districts that are having to do transporting on a daily basis between Moorhead and Fergus Falls and things like that because of what you have to do. So there's a lot of coordination, and it's becoming more and more important that we have those policies in place. So the plan is that this summer we work on getting that policy. We'll bring in sample ones. We'll run it through the policy committee, and then to have that in place by the time we hit August 1st, so that as the handbooks are being approved, as the site leadership is looking at their processes, that they back to school nights and all that, we have all of the plans ready to go for it. So that's something that will be coming. Federal funding. You may have seen some of the information coming from MREA. MSBA will be coming out with some information, I'm sure. MASA, the Superintendent's Association, just put some information out today. But the MREA one, if you have not seen it, they have a good summary on the funding that will be associated based on what the president signed in. We know that we took a hit on federal dollars coming in as a school district. We had about $60,000 drop in our federal funding associated with title. Some things that are in, and we know this is in place now because the president has signed it. And again, it's flow through money from the federal government to the states. Some important points. Title I will increase. Title I at the federal level is going to go from $15.5 billion to $15.8, about a $300 million increase. So that's good news because at least we know that we're not going to see a decrease in Title I. Title II, no change, but at least they didn't drop it because, again, that was one of those target areas of possible cuts. We've been worried about Title II. And we did get a decrease in our Title II, but it could have been a lot worse. Indian Ed is going to be increased. We started getting that money coming in a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. There's a slight from 165 million to 180 million. So again, most of the other areas stayed the same. A big one, and we do not know how this is going to affect us yet because we have not been getting Title IV funds. And the state has been using a lot of the Title IV funds, the block grant funds coming from the federal government, to create some of these competitive grants that school districts can compete for. The problem is so many of those grants are targeted for not outstate, for greater Minnesota. I mean, the parameters that they put on it make it much more enticing and realistic for the Twin City schools to get them. It's just the way that they set them up. So here's the thing, and I've got to call in to the Title IV coordinator for the Department of Ed because I am really curious to know how this is going to affect us in the future because the Part B is going to see a major increase to the tune of we're seeing about a $275 million increase in Title IV. So when we look at the idea of Part B, that is significant amount. increase. There's a couple of areas that have some big increases. One is going up from like, I think it was 300 million to 1.2 billion. I mean, there's one of them that was taking 175% increase. The thing that we don't know yet, and that's why it's always in the details. How much of this will go targeted towards school choice? The more that goes to school choice is the more money that can potentially go away from public schools. So even though it's increased in the federal funding, if they open that up to charter schools is one thing, but if they open it up to school choice to private schools, then we've got a major influx that could be detrimental to public schools. So that we'll wait and see, because we do not have the details on that. But it's something that everybody should be keeping an eye on, because we know that that's been a target with the at the federal level to put more money into school choice. So we'll see what comes out of that. We got the positions. We went through, been working with Matt on the high school schedule based on all the pre-registration. I think we've got the preliminary numbers for departments as far as our FTEs and what that potentially can be looking like, and some ideas that will come out of that for April 9th. But we've got, it's confirmed that there's no question we need to, and tomorrow, once the board approves the principal resignation tonight, then we'll have all the advertising going out on those certified positions, which includes the Phi-Ed, the industrial arts, and the science positions. We're not advertising anything on elementary at this point, because again, we've got to take some of those recommendations based on what we're going to do financially with the potential cuts, because there's some restructuring that may take place. That will probably need to take place if we're going to be looking at making up this deficit. But again, those three, we want to have those and get that principal position advertised, and we'll do all that tomorrow as soon as we get approval tonight on the last one. And that's it. That wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't too bad. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, not bad, huh?
Any
Well,
questions?
you're going to hear me more when we get into the work session, so.
All right, we will move on to 7.1, the approval of the March 12th meeting by Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rich. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to the consent agenda under claims and accounts.
Board bills are $224,246.67.
All right. Your treasurer's report is in there, Minnesota liquid asset account, activity account, extracurricular.
There's one typo on the extracurricular,
Okay.
just so you're aware, if you catch it, under, I think it was speech, I think it was Kimberly, that was named twice as a halftime position. It's just a typo, it should only be once.
Oh.
So,
I see. Okay. The resignation. Resignation of Chelsea Hildy, paraprofessional, effective at the end of this school year. A donation from the Rebel Booster Club in the amount of $300 for the high school planners. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Go ahead, Bobby.
Okay. Bobby, and then
I'll second.
Amy will second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.1, under the post-prom rules. As Tracy had specified, that was the only change in there, was the recommendation that was brought forward from last year.
So moved.
Motion by Scott, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Raleigh. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.2, the school calendar. This is the first review of the 18-19 school calendar.
So moved.
Motion by Scott. Or a second.
Second.
Second by Rich. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.3, the program expansion. To approve the addition of the 2.0 FTE
And I've
special
got one,
ed.
I've got one more handout to go with this. Marianne did a really nice, and it's on the link, there's a link to that program proposal, but I thought, this has some real good data. And when you look at this, this is a spreadsheet showing our actual child count. It's residential numbers, okay, so the child count is actually off of residential. So when you look at the total enrollment, where you see the 1,300 and some, and you know that we have 1,600 and some students, but this is the residential count. But you can see even from the residential, when you look at December 1 of 2013, the fact that we had 134 K-12 students identified in special ed. And this year, it's projected, December 1, 2018, 230. Even from going the 134 to the 204, it's a 52% increase. So we've got 52% increase in the amount of kids serviced. And at the same time, our FTEs of the staffing working with those students only went up 22% or 20%. So even by adding these two positions, we're still not even getting close to maintaining our same student-teacher ratios that we've been trying to maintain in our other areas. And this is by law to meet these needs. The other piece that when you look at those disabilities, and like I said, Marianne's done a really nice job here with all of the categories. If you look at, and some of you were seeing with our budget earlier, that our one-to-one paras increased drastically. Well, it increased drastically because the needs of the service requirements for the heavy hitters in special ed are getting more and more. That's why the one-to-ones went up so much more. So not only have we increased by 52% of amount of students, it's the severity of the disabilities has greatly increased. So just more verification why we need these positions.
I appreciate all the little
Thank you, Marianne.
highlighting the acronyms, that's fabulous.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Scott,
Second.
by Lindsay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.4, to approve the addition of the 0.33 FTE DAPE teacher for the fiscal year 19.
So moved.
Motion by Lindsay
Second.
and Bobby. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.5, the program expansion, FTE for in food service for the flex position.
So moved.
Motion by Amy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rich.
Take your pick.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.6, the program expansion for the half-day of school readiness for the fiscal year 19. A motion.
So moved.
Motion by Lindsay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bobby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 9.7, the resignation of Matt Noggle, high school principal, effective at the end of this school year.
So moved.
Motion by Amy. Is there a
Second.
Raleigh? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Moving on to 9.8. This is Lindsay had mentioned these policies in her report. So this is the policies. This is the first reading for 901, 904, 905, 906, and 907. The second reading for 914. 414. Thank you. There's so many nines, I just wanted to keep going. So thank you. Second reading for 414. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Lindsay. Is there a second?
Second.
Raleigh? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moving on to the 9.9, the revised budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rich. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 10.1, the night shift custodial supervisor. Okay, for a motion
moved.
on that. Scott, and is there a second?
Second.
Second by Raleigh. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Moving on to 11. We will be discussing after the board meeting tonight. We will be discussing and selecting, looking over the construction management firms. Setting up operations will be Monday, April 9th at 5 o'clock at high school in Glendon, followed by the board meeting at 6 o'clock. I do want to add one thing on here, our mid-year evaluation that we have. Thank you. And how would you like us, or how would you like me to proceed with that? I am fine doing that all together, or I can meet with Brian individually. I'm looking for direction from the board.
So reviewing everybody's comments
Yep.
as a group?
The comments that I've gotten, I don't want to take anybody's comments away from them, because I
Yeah.
think they're all,
Yeah.
they're good to hear. So I'm saying we can do it, and I can read them all and present it that way, or I can individually meet with Brian and give him all of the feedback that way.
I personally think we all should do it
Okay?
together.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll set something
And the
up
only
on
thing I
that.
want to add to the bottom is you said we have a work session. We need to add that on the bottom, on the 9th, for
Yeah.
budget,
Yep.
following the school board meeting.
And then is it your goal to get together with the city of Dilworth and then operations prior to the 9th, so that we can report on that on the 9th, or?
Basically, meeting with the city of Dilworth is to find out if there's an interest to get a joint meeting
Oh,
for
got it.
operations. So
Okay.
what'll happen is,
But if there is.
if there
would you-
is, that'll come forward. So the meeting would take place sometime between the 9th and the 23rd.
Oh, of April.
Yep.
Okay. So work group meeting following school board meetings next Monday, or the Monday,
9th.
the 9th.
Yep.
Got it. And that's in Glendon.
In Glendon.
Got it.
Anything else to add?
No?
Anything? Okay.
So.
Meeting